So I've been hearing rumors lately that KOTOR is getting a remake, and if they're true or not, I don't know, but either way, I still want to talk about this game, and maybe answer the question of whether or not it really needs one. KOTOR is a game that I have a lot of history with, and it's gone down in history as one of the greatest games of all time, if not the greatest. Well, anyways, Star Wars, or as I like to call it, mixed bag. For better or worse, I've been a Star Wars fan for a very long time. I grew up with the prequels while they were coming out, and while those films weren't exactly good,
I don't like sand.
I'll always have a sweet spot for them, and the memes will never let me forget. When it comes to the video games, I've only played a handful. I wouldn't come to play Knights of the Old Republic until the late 2000s, early 2010s when my brother's friend lent us his copies of KOTOR 1 and 2 for the original Xbox. For the most part, I watched my brother play, and then after his playthrough, I started my own. Unfortunately, I got to a point on Tatooine, and then something happened to corrupt my save file, so I quit and gave up. Oops. It took me years to realize I could have just reloaded from the autosave. Double oops. But I was a dumb kid. I wouldn't play it again until 2013, 2014 when I got it on PC. But anyways, let's talk about this game. Way back in the year 2000, BioWare was approached by LucasArts and was given the option to make a game about one of two things. A video game tie-in to the upcoming Attack of the Clones film, or a game that took place thousands of years before any of the movies. And the latter was chosen as BioWare believed that they could have more creative freedom when writing their story. They basically had a choice of making a sequel to Cancer or Homemade Brownies. I'll let you decide which is the better option. Well, anyways, this is an RPG, so that means 90% of it is plot, so let's get started. For this review, I will be spoiling the whole thing, and I'll leave a timestamp in the bottom, but thanks for watching anyway, if you decide to skip, so. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the Galactic Republic was struggling in war against the biggest, baddest warrior clan around, the Mandalorians, as they were conquering planets left and right, and they were seen as a big threat by the galaxy. The Republic's efforts were not enough as they started to lose footing in the war, so they tried to enlist the help of the Jedi Order. However, the Jedi, being the absolute butt munchers they are, would refuse the request as they claimed that they had no business in the Republic's affairs. Two Jedi, Revan and his friend Malak, weren't pleased with the Jedi's inaction, so they recruited as many other Jedi as they could to assist in the war efforts. This ended up being the turning point, as Revan's involvement basically made the war end immediately. The war was over, but Revan did not come back to the Jedi, as he, Malak, and several other Jedi disappeared into the unknown reaches of space. Probably to get milk or something? I don't know. Something was in that milk, as years later they suddenly returned with a new Sith Empire with Revan at the helm, declaring war on the Republic and the rest of the galaxy. During a key mission in which a strike squad of Jedi infiltrated Revan's command ship to capture him, Revan is killed by the sudden betrayal of his apprentice Malak as he saw the moment as a prime opportunity to take over. And now it is Darth Malak who's hell-bent on taking over the galaxy. Same thing, different guy, basically. So that was all just prelude and backstory to the whole thing. But now here we are at the actual start of the game. Above the planet Taris, a Republic cruiser is being attacked and boarded by Malak's Sith forces. My character is one of the Republic soldiers on board, and his name will be Rendar Vantel. You can pick any name you want, or have a random name, but this is what I went with, and I guess it sounds Star Wars-y enough. Anyways, the ship's under attack and I gotta escape. We learn that the Sith are after a Jedi named Bastila, who was a member of the Jedi Strike Force that was sent after Revan. The Sith are planning to capture her as she has mastered the ability called Battle Meditation, with which she can boost the morale of her allies while simultaneously demoralizing her opposition. I'm joined by this guy, Trask, but he quickly sacrifices himself to a Sith Lord so that I could get away. I know this dude for like 5 minutes and he's already willing to die for me. Gotta respect it. Rest in peace, Trask. I loved you like a brother. I then run into Cartho Nassi, another Republic soldier, and then we escape to Taris using the escape pods. It wasn't exactly a smooth landing as the crash knocked me out. After a mysterious dream, I wake up with Carth being the one that brought me to this rundown apartment. Carth introduces himself properly as a Republic soldier that's seen his fair share of action, including participating in the Mandalorian Wars, though he doesn't feel entirely comfortable sharing everything about himself. With introductions out of the way, we then start looking for Bastila, who is rumored to have crash landed on Taris as well. We then go investigate the biker gang controlled areas of the lower city, and then learn that Bastila has been taken captive by one of the gangs and is being sold off to the winner of the next race. The leader of the good guy bikers offers to help us by letting me participate in the next race to rescue Bastila, though we first need to get a stolen bike part back from the bad guy gang, and we end up recruiting a young Twi'lek named Mission Val and her Wookiee friend Zelbar. With their help, I eventually get the bike part back, and then win the race and rescue Bastila. She's a little arrogant and bossy, but ultimately understands that rank doesn't mean anything anymore given our current situation. Upon meeting her, I get another strange vision, and more clear than the last one, showing Bastila about to face off against Darth Revan. Confronting her about this, Bastila says that I might be Force-sensitive and that I could learn the ways of the Jedi. However, we need to get off Taris before we can even think about doing anything else. We end up recruiting a Mandalorian mercenary named Canderous Ordo, who helps us steal a crime lord's flagship, the Ebon Hawk. And just in time too, as Malak has grown impatient looking for Bastila and decides to start an orbital bombardment on the planet. No kill like overkill, they always say, and I guess in his mind he's like, if I can't have Bastila, then no one can. Quite the ladies' man, if I do say so myself. With the Hawk, we manage to escape to the Jedi Enclave on Dantooine, where we can finally take a much-needed breather. I even get to become a Jedi while I'm there, even though I'm way too old to start training, but the Jedi Council made a special exception just for me because why the hell not? RPG heroes, I guess. Progress is fast, and during my training I have my first lightsaber duel against a woman named Juhani. You can choose to kill her if you want, but I don't recommend it, because she'll join your party if she lives. It's also a good idea to let her live for a reason I'll get into later. After bringing Juhani back to the Jedi, my training is complete. I then have yet another vision, and this time it's of Revan and Malak investigating ancient ruins on Dantooine. Bastila also had the same vision and claims it is because of a Force bond that we shared it. The Council then sends us to investigate the same ruins to find out what the Sith Lords had discovered. Upon reaching the ruins, we learn of the existence of something called the Starforge. What it does we're not sure, but whatever it is, it caused Revan and Malak to turn to the dark side, and we need to find its location. To do that, we need to collect star maps from 4 different planets, Tatooine, Kashyyyk, Manaan, and Korriban. With this knowledge, the Jedi Council sends us on a mission to find the Starforge. Now, why they're sending 2 or 3 barely trained Jedi for this, I don't know, but whatever. I guess we just gotta do what we're told. And here's where the story kinda takes a backseat. You got your mission, go to 4 planets and find 4 things, but each planet doesn't serve to advance the plot in any significant way, especially since you can go to the planets in any order you want. While the planets don't really advance the plot at all, it is not to say that they're devoid of anything. They all have their individual stories, which they all end in the discovery of a star map, and gives the game sort of an episodic feel that I like. On Tatooine, you basically do the thing that inspires that one episode in Season 2 of The Mandalorian. Like, it's more or less the exact same thing. On Kashyyyk, you help the Wookiees by ending a slavery operation. On Manaan, you have to deal with a mind control zombie horror scenario. And on Korriban, you infiltrate the Sith Academy and work your way up to the top. All of these planets do a really good job with world building. And I mean, it's Star Wars, so it's kind of a given. But I think it's really cool how we get to learn about Sith philosophies on Korriban, and how on Manaan we get to learn how important resources are on both sides of the war. And both sides are not above using underhanded tactics to gain the advantage. Malak is still in hot pursuit, however, as you will run into several Dark Jedi and can be interrupted with a space shooter section while on your way to a planet. Malak will also send special forces like literal dickhead bounty hunter Calo Nord and his apprentice Darth Bandon, the guy that killed Trask at the beginning, so now it really got personal. And I do like this, because it makes it feel that Malak isn't just sitting down twiddling his thumbs waiting for the heroes to just do their thing. I think this is a good time to talk about the characters now, as this is the point where you'll be getting to know them more. I'm not going to go over all of them in great detail, because there are 9 of them. Well, I guess 8, because T3M4 has literally nothing for him other than existing and speaking in beeps and boops. Carth and Bastila are the 2 most important characters in the story. Carth has major trust issues, and he has a hard time opening up to you as he can't decide if he actually wants to talk about something.
We'll talk about it, but later. Right now, I just want to get going.
Talking to him more, we learn that Carth was betrayed by his former commander, Saul Kareth, who we see speaking to Malak on several occasions. Bastila is kind of an asshole when you meet her, but as the journey goes on, she'll warm up to you, and if you're playing as a guy, she'll develop feelings towards you, and you get this super romantic scene.
Okay, you've made your point. Now shut up and kiss me, you fool. We shouldn't have done that.
Now that's some top-class stuff right there. Some of the characters will also have some side quests attached to them, like how Carth's is about finding and reconnecting with the sun. Bastila's is about finding and reconnecting with their mother. Missions is about finding and reconnecting with their brother. Huh. I'm gonna admit that I just realized how similar these quests are as I was typing out the script. But it's not to say that they're like all the same. They're just similar in premise, but they all have very different outcomes for each. Overall, I'd say this is a pretty good cast of characters. My personal favorites being the old man Jolee Bindo and my favorite droid in the entire Star Wars franchise, HK-47. I like Jolee because the cranky old man joke is funny, and I think he has some interesting philosophies regarding the Jedi and the Force. With HK-47, I just think he's hilarious, and he's so unapologetically bloodthirsty, and a lot of his dialogue is just pure gold.
Statement. HK-47 is ready to serve, Master. Query. Don't I? I was under the assumption that organic meatbags such as yourself enjoyed such forms of address. Retraction. Did I say that out loud? I apologize, Master. While you are a meatbag, I suppose I should not call you such. Explanation. It's just that you have all these squishy parts, Master, and all that water. How the constant sloshing doesn't drive you mad, I have no idea. Statement. Now do you understand the travails of my existence, Master? Surely it does not compare to your existence, but still. Commentary. As do I. It is our lot in life, I suppose, Master. Shall we find something to kill to cheer ourselves up?
I think I'd rather have all the characters get side quests, as I feel like it would establish relationships and motivations better rather than just having the characters talk at you for 10 minutes. Another thing is I wish the characters talk to each other a bit more. There are a few instances where two party members will have a brief chat, but triggering those seems random and there aren't a lot of them. And it's a shame too, because I like what's there. I just wish there was more. Anyways, after collecting 3 star maps, the Ebon Hawk gets intercepted by Saul Kareth, Carth's former mentor. The entire crew is taken captive, however Carth, Bastila, and myself are held separate from the rest. Saul ends up interrogating us as he also reveals that the Jedi Temple in Dantooine was destroyed. Ultimately, Saul was just stalling until Malak showed up, and he soon leaves to go update him on the situation. Thanks to a party member of the player's choice, we're set free and it's time to escape, but first we need to head to the bridge so that we can release the lockdown on the Hawk. Upon making it there, we confront Saul and promptly defeat him, and Carth gets his revenge, but not before Saul whispers something in his ear, causing Carth to snap at Bastila about something that I'm not sure of. Pressed for time, Bastila promises to explain everything after escaping. The escape route is cut short by Malak, however, and for some reason he states how this is a momentous reunion between him and I. We're then shown a cinematic with various scenes from all across the adventure that lead to the reveal that I was Darth Revan the entire time, and that the Jedi had completely rewritten my entire mind after almost being killed in hopes that they would have such a powerful ally. A bit of a personal anecdote here. When I saw this for the first time, I was watching my brother play, and our jaws hit the floor when we watched this scene. It was such a cool twist to my kid's self, where I'm like, oh my god, that's me! That's me in the cool mask and the cool hood and the cool everything. That's awesome, I was the bad guy! To this day, I still think it's one of the most influential and legendary plot twists in all of gaming. Though having played this game as a kid, I'm not sure how well the writers were able to hide it from the older audiences, but on repeat playthroughs I've been able to pick up on hints towards the twist, and I'd say that they're decently subtle with a few exceptions here and there. Also, yes, I did name my character Rendar Vanto to play on Revan. Well, after that bombshell, I enter into a one-on-one confrontation with Malak, and he kind of fights like a bitch, to be honest. He's pretty easy, but the story says he's too powerful as I'm not able to beat him, and Bastila sacrifices herself so that Carth and I could get away. We reach the Ebon Hawk and have a much-needed chat with the rest of the crew, including the whole Revan thing. Carth is very angry about this, and very clearly doesn't trust me, but it takes everyone else standing up for me to get him to change his mind. Also during this talk, it's revealed that HK-47 was actually built by Revan. That's convenient. HK also says that him calling every living thing a meatbag was something that he had originally called Malak, and Revan had programmed his verbal tick into HK because he thought it was funny. I love that. Despite Basila's absence, the mission stays strong, and eventually I get the final star map, which leads to an unknown planet. Upon arrival, we finally see the Starforge, and Carth calls the entire Republic fleet for a final assault on the Sith. After a brief dogfight, a disruptor field causes the Ebon Hawk to make an emergency landing on the unnamed world. While the ship gets repaired, I need to find a way to shut down the disruptor field so that the Republic fleet won't suffer a similar fate when they arrive. Exploring around leads me to find the planet's natives, the Rakata, who recognize me as Revan, and they don't really like me. After earning their trust, they let me go into the temple that holds the controls for the disruptor field. Against the Rakatans' rules, Juhani and Jolee join me as only Force users are allowed into the temple, and the biggest reason why you should spare Juhani's life, whether you're doing a light side or dark side playthrough. Because if you kill her, then you only have Jolee with you, so kind of making things harder for yourself. Inside the temple, we find a terminal that finally tells us exactly what the Starforge is. It's a factory space station hybrid that takes matter from a star to produce weapons, armored vehicles, and droids at a ridiculously fast pace, and is the reason why Malik was able to amass an army so fast. We make it to the top of the temple where the field controls are, and we run into Bastila, who is now turned to the dark side after several Malik torture sessions. It's at this point where you choose your ending. For Dark Side, you side with Bastila to take down Malik and reclaim your title as Dark Lord of the Sith, but you lose over half your party members if you do so. For Light Side, you just say no, and then she runs away back to the Starforge. I disable the disruptor field, and now it's time to take the fight to the Starforge. We make it to the Starforge, and Malik really just throws everything he has at me, as we have to fight through waves upon waves upon waves of enemies. Upon reaching the end, I run into Bastila, who's using her battle meditation ability to bolster the Sith forces. After some brief spats, you can either kill her or bring her back to your side, so that she can use her battle meditation to help the Republic instead. Either way, I'm on my own against Malik. I make it to the guy, and we have one last battle. He still fights like a bitch, but after a long duel, he is finally cut down. I escape with everyone in one piece, the Starforge is destroyed, and we have a nice celebration to commemorate the end of the war and the redemption of Revan. Or you can take over the Starforge, destroying the Republic, and become Space Hitler. You do you. Regardless, this is the end of Knights of the Old Republic. Overall, I'd say this is a pretty good story, but there are a few things that I wouldn't really necessarily call them bad, but they just feel weird, if I can say it any other way. For one thing, Bastila turning to the dark side just feels like a complete 180 for her character. I get that it's the point, but I feel like it's too sudden without any build-up. Like the torture scene takes place right before you show up to the Rakatan planet, and then she's all like, "Whoa, go Team Malik!" I feel like the torture scene should have been placed earlier and have one or two more scenes like it to have it be a steady decline. Another approach could have been her joining out of fear and having her dialogue reflect it in a way. Speaking of dialogue, it kinda sucks. Okay, like, I know it's Star Wars and I should expect that kind of thing, but there's only so much I can take, and more specifically, I'm talking about the dialogue of the player character. There are a few lines here and there that oozes that classic Star Wars cheese, but most of it is fine and entertaining at points, and it helps that the voice acting is generally pretty good. But with the player's dialogue, it's just like there's no middle ground for anything. You're either a preachy, "I am a servant of the light, and the Jedi are perfect," or a mustache-twirling cartoon villain that wants to murder everything that moves. I think Dark Bastila confrontation is a prime example of this, and then there's this line here during the Vulcar base raid on Terrace. "Leaving you alive is too risky. Sorry, sister. Looks like your order is up." All in all, these complaints are fairly harmless to what I think is a very entertaining experience, and I think that this story is the best instance of the Star Wars formula. And by that I mean the story is basically Star Wars Episode 4 and some 5, but it's less blatant rehashing than Force Awakens. It's more poetic, I guess, if I can put it any other way. Okay, let's go down the list. There's a big bad guy with a red laser sword ruling the galaxy and has a breathing problem. There's a kooky old guy living in a hut in a dark swampy place that sort of becomes your master. The main character learns how to use a laser sword and becomes a space wizard. There's a shocking reveal about the main character. Planet gets completely decimated. There's a big space station capable of galactic domination. There's a big celebration after destroying the space station. KOTOR has enough of its own identity to make it so that these parallels don't seem completely lazy, and I really like this as a representation of the standard Star Wars story. On the topic of presentation, I think it's really good looking for a 2003 Xbox game. Model quality, backgrounds, environments all look pretty good. The music is just what you'd expect from Star Wars, with familiar pieces and original tracks that fit right in with the franchise, with the main theme being one of my favorites. Sound design is really well done, especially when you're in the space shooter sections, and the turrets just sound so clean. Can't say the same for when you're on Kashyyyk though, when the monkey sound effect plays every 2 seconds, and oh my god, please make it stop.
Hiding in the underbrush. I'm Jolie.
The voice acting holds up pretty well for today's standards, with this guy being one of my favorite voices.
Is somebody out there? Fishy, 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 come and eat me too. You can't get me, little fishy. Nothing here. I'm safe behind my walls.
Character animations, however, first off, it doesn't help that a lot of scenes are just camera A, camera B conversations, and characters just kind of stand around until they... Yeah. Oh right, this is a video game, isn't it? If you've ever played Dungeons & Dragons, this should look very familiar to you. But not so much to me, as I've only played a little bit of D&D, which means I barely understand skill descriptions that tell you how damage is calculated. Like, I don't know what this means. Upon creating your character, you choose which stats you want to invest points in. You also choose what field skills you want to improve on, and passive abilities called feats. You won't be able to upgrade these every time you level up, as some levels won't allow you to increase stats or feats, with the only exceptions being force powers when you get them. What you're able to upgrade on each level is determined by your class. Scouts level up field skills more often. I don't remember what the Scoundrel class does because I've never played as one, but this extends to the Jedi classes too, with Guardian, Consular, and Sentinel. And from personal experience, I do not recommend Sentinel, as it is a parallel to Scout, meaning more skill upgrades but less stat upgrades for later parts of the game where you need firepower and Sentinel just doesn't have any. Every attack you make just feels like you're hitting your enemy with a glow-in-the-dark pool noodle. Consular is basically the mage class where you can use plenty of self buffs and offensive powers like Force Lightning. I usually go with Guardian, which is like the warrior class, because I like to get up close and deal as much damage as I can to my opponents with flurry rushes. For this playthrough, I started out as a Scout, but then switched to Guardian, as Scout was just not pulling his weight for the reasons I stated earlier. Thankfully, there's a little trick you can do called storing level ups. When you're on Terrace, just get to level 4 or 5 and then stop leveling up until you become a Jedi, which will help you unlock force powers more often and help you adjust to a new class. You're gonna get your ass kicked a lot early on, but it'll be worth it. Thankfully, you have your party members to pick up your slack. All of them have their set classes and certain specialties, like how Karth is a long-range fighter that specializes in dual pistols, and how Mission has a lot of good field skills, letting you bypass security doors and using computers effectively. And you shouldn't ever have to worry about any party member falling behind, as experience points are shared, and you can always start leveling up your party once you bring them off the ship. There isn't ever a point where you need to grind for anything, because there are no random encounters, and this game does a really good job of making sure you're able to proceed without making it too easy or impossibly hard. Though you can change the difficulty at any point if you're struggling, even during combat. I do recommend going out of your way to complete side quests, as they yield experience points and other rewards like money or items, and money can be kind of scarce early on unless you're gambling your life away in this fun little card game called Pazaak, or you can get a shitload of money by doing the swoop races on Tatooine. Here's my money before the race, and here's my money afterwards. Though the amount you earn at the races is limited, because after winning all 3 you're asked to leave for being too good. The life of a gamer. Something I like about the side quests is that it's not always about fighting X amount of enemies or whatever. For the most part, it's about finding and talking to people and fighting things on the way to the destination, and for some, not even that much. Like for this one, where you have to solve a murder mystery and you need to piece together information the suspects tell you to come to a conclusion, and if you get the answer wrong, you'll still complete the side quest, but your rewards will be lesser. But you can always reload the save if you do get it wrong, so go nuts. Another part of the game is the morality system, where sometimes you'll be given a choice to do something noble or something evil. Usually it involves letting someone live or die, or threatening someone into giving you a better reward. These choices will net you light or dark side points. Being on one side of the spectrum will allow you to cast force powers at a lower cost, depending on the affiliation of the power, and the reverse is also true. Dark side powers like Force Lightning will cost more if you're light-sided, but something like Force Healing will cost less. This doesn't apply to every power, as some are neutral like Force Push. Generally, light side powers are more supportive, like with buffs or protection spells, while dark side revolves around debuffs and offensive powers. Although light side gets stasis, which can kind of break the game if you focus on force powers a lot. As for the actual combat system, it's sort of a mix of real-time and turn-based combat. When fighting, you'll automatically do a standard attack if you don't select any other options like melee abilities or force powers and other things. There is a turn order, but it's always moving at real time, but you can always use the spacebar to pause combat and strategically plan out your attack to set up combos with your other party members. It's a little archaic, but it's nothing too offensive, but not stellar. Just kind of exists, honestly. At some points, the game will actually allow you to bypass certain encounters. When in a dungeon, there's usually a terminal that you can access, and you can look at different camera feeds. The terminals will let you use certain functions, like blowing open a conduit to kill everyone nearby, gassing a whole room, or nerfing security droids to make upcoming encounters easier, and this is all assuming you have enough computer specs to do these. Sometimes you'll see a broken down droid nearby too, and if you have enough parts, you can repair it and have it fight on your side. The amount of spikes and parts you use depend on your skill level in computer use and repair, which gives Scouts and Sentinels good options. Or you can switch to another party member and just utilize their skills, making Scout and Sentinel even more useless. But regardless, I really like the utility that this brings. Giving the players several options to approach one situation gives an aspect of replayability that I really like. Now I'd like to take a moment to address what I don't like about this game. It is jank. Like, okay, I get that it's an old game and I shouldn't always compare it to modern standards, but holy mother of God, this game did not age well. Okay, first off with the combat. I'll have moments where I'm low in health and I want to use a med pack, so I click on it, and then for some reason the action lineup says I'm doing a regular attack even though I never wanted to do that, so I clear the lineup, select the med pack again, and now it's the first thing in the lineup, and now I'm left confused as to why I had to do something so tedious just to heal. Or how about not being able to leave an area because you need your whole party with you, but one member got stuck and is now 5 miles away, so you have to wait until they catch up, and some of these field maps are fucking big. Like, I get Tatooine as a desert and all, but holy shit, it is just so bland and uninteresting to navigate. And then there's an underwater bit during the Manan main quest where you move so agonizingly slow. It got to the point where I had to enable cheats and turn on turbo just so I wouldn't have to deal with this. It looks completely ridiculous, but I'm able to get through at a pace that's actually comfortable and not all I feel is pain. Speaking of pain, I also got soft-locked at a point near the end of the game in a process I'm still trying to come to terms with. I exit my ship and head into the next area, and while I'm fighting some enemies, I somehow walk into an area transition flag which put me back on the ship, but when I exit I can't go back to the area I just was because all the doors were locked and there was no way to open them. So I was stuck and had to reload my save, and thankfully it didn't happen again. Another thing, and I don't know if this is just me messing up my character stat build, but I think this game has some sort of accuracy problem. I don't think I've ever missed this many shots since high school. I swear it's like a 50-50 shot whether I actually land an attack. Like, how the fuck do I miss hitting a door? It just doesn't make any sense, honestly. Oh, hold on. I have to go use the bathroom. Nobody's in there. Why is it locked? The fuck? Okay, so I know I threw a whole sling of bullshit all at once right now, but that doesn't mean I hate this game. I have 170 hours on this game. I'd actually be stupid if I said I didn't like it. I'm just recognizing that this game is aged rather poorly, and I would struggle to recommend it to anyone unless you're really curious. It also doesn't help that this game is hard to run on modern hardware, and you really have to go out of your way to make patches to give yourself a comfortable playing experience, like implementing widescreen and such. This game has often been regarded as one of, if not the greatest game of all time, and I think there might have been a time where I would agree. And maybe I can still see it because of the game's story, but I don't think anyone's saying that kind of thing about the gameplay. Nowadays, I still think it's a good game, it just shows its age. But I won't deny that KOTOR left its mark on the gaming landscape and made BioWare an acclaimed name. Pity about how they are now, but that's neither here nor there. So if you're curious about it, go check it out. Just remember that it's not going to live up to modern standards. It's $10, should take you no more than 20-30 hours. Not a bad deal if I do say so myself. So now the question of potential remake, and yes, I would absolutely love one. Like new cinematics, cutscenes, whatever, voice acting. Oh my god, it would be amazing. And especially a new combat system. And in my head I'm thinking, what if we had something like the Final Fantasy VII Remake combat system where you can have tactical combat during real-time scenarios? It'd be amazing. It's perfect. It's already sort of like that. Or it could never happen, and I'll just cry.